You gonna show our face? All right, everybody, we're online. Finally got everything worked out and everybody here. I hope everybody's doing good tonight. We got Kaylee here with us also.
Hi, everybody.
And we decided to do one in our backyard since it's so big. How's everybody doing tonight? Hope everybody's good. Hope you can hear us good. We're ready to do a show about Sasquatch tonight. We have a special guest we're going to be calling. Actually, we got two guests on here tonight. And so they're going to be coming on here in a little bit. Also, we are doing the giveaway tonight. Do not guess numbers right now. We'll let you know when to do it. You must be present in the show to win the mug. And I went and bought some little pumpkins to go in it. We will each autograph this mug. My mom also, she's going to be making the jewelry and the stuff that's going to be given or sold with the channel on the channel page. Kaylee's here. She's ready to rock and roll. She had a pretty fun night last night with us. It was hilarious last night. We had a lot of fun. Got to visit a good, nice place of history. Very interesting. I was glad Sarah shared that with us because she knows I like history, and I think she does too. Also, we've been having trouble tonight, but don't worry, we do have security here. Giles has tried to enter the studio a few times, but they're holding him back, so hopefully we don't hear from Giles, but I'm hearing we will at the end of the show. Is that what you're hearing?
I heard that.
He's trying to get in toward the end of the show. Mm-hmm. So we don't know what's going to happen with that. Hopefully it's going to be peaceful and none of us get Giles on the set.
You know what's going to happen?
What?
It's called blocked and deleted.
No, he's here. Physically.
What?
Giles is trying to get into our studio. You'll see at the end of the show.
You'll see. Okay.
It's going to be a fun night, guys. We got a lot of fun activities created for you guys.
Hi. Hello.
And we're doing it on the great outdoors. Maybe we can even show you all the moon tonight. And as you can see behind me, there's no aliens, and we're called stars. All right, tonight.
It's nice out here tonight.
Yeah, we had a cold front come in.
Yeah, it got really cool tonight, so we decided to take y'all outside. You know, we like doing it outside. Anyway, I am going to go ahead and let's see here. Let's get our guest on the line. Let me run and grab something real quick. I want to call her on her line instead of on the internet because she was having a little bit of internet problems. So let me go grab. Oh, we may not be able to do that on my other. We're going to try to do it on Messenger. That's what we're going to try to do.
Okay.
Hopefully that will work. If it doesn't work, we will do it on your phone or we'll figure something out. So let's go ahead and get our guest on the line and let's let her talk about some of her encounters.
Welcome, Melissa. If it's your first time, we're glad to have you here.
All right. It's our first time here?
Uh-huh.
All right. We got a lot of new people, guys, have joined our Facebook and our YouTube, so thank you very much for that. Hello?
Yep, can you hear me?
There you are. I went ahead and called you on Messenger. If we have to do it another way, we will later. Well, I told everybody we're going to use you as anonymous unless you wanted to use your name, but as far as I'm doing it right now, it's anonymous. Is that how you would like to remain?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
No?
Jack, can you hear us?
Can you hear us? Uh-oh.
Mike?
Can you hear us now?
I can hear you now.
All right. So would you like to remain anonymous tonight?
No, it's fine.
You're sure with that?
Yes, I'm good with it.
All right, everybody. I'd like you to welcome Jessica to the show. She's going to share some encounters with us tonight. She's been a subscriber for a while. She's has some very good stories. I spoke with her earlier on, and she's got some really good encounters to share with you. So I'm going to let you go ahead and just tell them kind of, what you told me earlier, and we may have some questions for you. I'm sure we will because that stuff is scary to me, but go ahead and take the floor.
Okay, so what I was telling you earlier, the experience that I had with the Ouija board. So when I was 17, I was getting ready to leave for boot camp. It was a split option. And the next day I was heading out. And so before I left, my two good friends, I'm going to call her Katniss and her sister Belle. Mm-hmm. They went to school with me, and actually Katniss was supposed to leave for boot camp with me, but ended up can't remember what exactly happened, if she just missed the cutoff or what, but she was supposed to leave like a couple weeks after me. So we were going to do one night and do a sleepover. And so we were going to do a sleepover in the backyard before I left. We had a pop-up camper that my dad we went camping a lot growing up. And so we always had the pop-up camper that he would set up outside to air out and hang out. And so me and my brother would hang out there a lot too. But on this particular night, we were sleeping out in the camper and decided to pull out the Ouija board. Now, before anybody starts making comments going, well, that was my first mistake, keep in mind, I don't even know where this Ouija board came from. Like I was saying, I had either for Christmas or my birthday or something, I had received it as a gift. And I remember opening it up going, why would I have been given this? Like, I've talked about it and they know that it's not a good thing to have. I grew up going to a private school. We had to go to church every Wednesday morning in class or for school. We had to go to church every Sunday. And we had theology class every single day. And it was just ingrained in us that Ouija boards were bad. But by this time, this was my junior year of high school. Like I said, I was split up, so I was going for my between my junior and senior year of high school. And I was actually, at this point, I had given up going to the private school, and my parents decided to send me to the public school system because I had enough of the rules and regulations. So this night, we decided we'll pull out the Ouija board. And we ended up setting up candles, those Glade Scentsy candles. That was the only thing that we had in the house. So I pulled those out and set those up in the camper. And we're outside and like, okay, well, I got this. I went to a private school and I know what we should and shouldn't do. And I know it's going to come through. So rather than try and pull through anything that could be fake, we're just going to go ahead and call through. And I know it's going to come through and it's going to be something bad, but we're going to try and keep control of it. And that's what I thought. So we pulled out the Ouija board and we started. It didn't take long. It was to the point where we put our fingers on it and asked a couple of questions, and within a few minutes it actually started to move. It was moving around, answering questions, and it actually got to the point where it was moving so fast that it was actually answering questions before we were actually verbally asking questions.
Wow.
At one point, Katniss was like, what was that? We didn't even say anything. And I said, I think it actually read my mind, and it went right to yes. It was actually going so fast around the board at times that it would slip out from under our fingers. And so we knew this was not any of us playing around with each other. This was really happening, and it was really strong. There were flies that were starting to come into the camper, and that's when I said to them even that there's flies in here. That's a sign that this is something strong. I don't even like to say the word demonic,
Right.
but it was pretty blatant that what we were dealing with at that point. And I had it in my head that we were safe doing this outside because we wouldn't take anything into the house, and it was outside and we were fine and nothing would happen, and we could close this up, and I knew what I was doing. That's what I thought. I knew what I was doing.
Right.
So at one point, as we're asking all of these questions, the thing that was in the board or communicating was like, go dance. And we're like, what? Like, dance what? So dance with devil. And we were kind of like, well, that, like what? Like, go outside and dance with the devil. And I was kind of like, well, how is that going to work? Because if we're outside, who's going to control the board? Somebody needs to be able to control this board. Again, that's in my mind, I'm thinking we're controlling it. We have control. And so it spelled out Belle and said she would stay in the room or in the camper and she would be on the board. At that point, Belle was like, well, I kind of need to go to the bathroom. We need to take a break or something. And I was like, well, I don't really want to leave the board open and walk away again. And it basically said, well, you got 5 minutes. Break for 5 minutes. Go. So we all, each one by one, ran into the house. When you go into the house, there was a small little bathroom right to the right. So we each ran in really quick, went to the bathroom, did our deed, and came out. The next person went in immediately. Because 5 minutes is not long. And Belle was the last one to go in. So she ran in and we're sitting there waiting, kind of like, okay, can't believe this is happening. And she comes back in and she's like, I think I was running out of time. Why? She's like, the lights started flickering. Did you see anything? I didn't see the lights flickering, but then again, I wasn't really looking in that direction. Me and Katniss were kind of looking at each other like, okay. And she's like, yeah, the lights started flickering. I was really freaked out. I don't, this is kind of freaky. Well, we got to finish this up because we need to make sure that we can close this when we're done. So she gets back on the board and me and Katniss went outside of our pop-up camper. So in the backyard, the way that it was set up, the camper was kind of facing the garage. So there was a small area between the camper door and then the garage. And then the front of the camper was the house that we had just run in and run out of. And in the backyard, it was pretty open. It was a pretty large backyard. Just to kind of give you an idea of how much space was back there. I really bad at sizes. I want to say it was about a 1/4 acre, maybe a little bigger. We had a small garden that my dad used to grow vegetables in, and swing set, and a big, huge maple tree, and there were some like tiger lilies in the very, very far back corner, but I never really liked to go back in that corner at all anyways. But we got out of the camper and I was closest to the backyard area and Katniss was kind of standing by the door of the camper. So she was between me and the house and I was between her and the yard. And during this whole time, I never really had this innate fear of anything. Looking back now, I don't understand why I just was so calm. But it just, I wasn't scared. I didn't tell you earlier, but I did get the feeling that, again, like that creepiness in that back corner, like there was something there, but I didn't see anything. It was almost just like a pressure feeling, but other than that, it was, I couldn't physically see anything with my eyes. But again, it's really dark. It's late at night. The only thing that we really had, I think, was a overhead light right above the back door so that we could see the door if we had to run to the bathroom. But that was even, it was an old light. It was like one of those really dim yellowish kind of things. So there really was not a whole lot of light in the backyard. So we get out in the yard and we're standing there and kind of felt stupid. Like, what do we do? Like, there's no music. How do we dance? And I kind of started to like sway around like, okay, this is really kind of ridiculous, but whatever. And Katniss was like, Jess, I'm freaked out. Like, this is scary. I'm really scared. And I'm like, well, I'm not, and I'm here. And I could hear from the camper Belle going, you guys, you need to come back in. And Katniss is like, why, what's going on? And she's like, it's telling me you need to come in now. So Katniss walks into the camper, and I walk in, I shut the door, and I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, it was telling me it was scared and stop and come in. And so we kind of put our hands back on the little scry thing, and I said I wasn't scared. I don't know why, but I wasn't scared. And that's when the scry started to spell out God's child. And I'm like, what? And it said, you're God's child. You are God's child. And I'm like, I'm God's child? I said, yes. And again, at this point, it's still moving very fast. Like, we're barely putting our fingers on this thing, and it's sliding all over the board. Like, it had a mind of its own. And then it spelled out, sorry. And I'm going, well, sorry for what? Who's sorry? It said, I'm sorry. I am sorry. And like, you're sorry? And it said, tell God I'm sorry.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, you want to tell God you're sorry? It said, yes. Yes. And I don't think I told you this, but I was like, well, I said at that point, I can't tell God you're sorry if just, I can't tell him that. And that's, if you've lost your connection, like, and it just said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Do you feel kind of like that could have been like one of the fallen angels that was coming through that board and was maybe trying to get someone that it knew you was a Christian, so it was trying to get you to tell God that it was sorry because it has lost that communication like you're talking about?
I do. I really do feel like it realized that there was no way to make amends and do anything about the punishment that it was now facing for eternity. And it was using us to try, or me, or all of us to try and get a message across. And I think at that point, that was kind of one of the chill factors for me. And that was...
We had a question from the audience. They said, did it ever give you its name?
It did. I don't like to say its name.
I don't know.
I wouldn't say its name if you don't feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, I think that could possibly give it place.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah. I've only told one other person its name, because at the time I was telling my cousin at the time what had happened.
Right.
And he had asked, well, what's the name? And so I gave it to him. He's like, that's interesting. I gotta check that out. Now, where he went to and where he looked to find this information, I have no clue. And I never asked him because I guess I was young still and naive and like, wow, dude, if you figured that out, okay. And what he told me was pretty scary. But he had stated that through what he had discovered, that name came back as one of the right-hand fallen angels of Lucifer.
I would not be surprised at all. That is
Wow.
Whenever I was younger, a friend had one, and we didn't know anything about it. It was sold, as a board game to us. It wasn't, anything when we were just kids that it was just fun. And I remember when we got caught by my granny. I mean, she took it straight out and burned it. And
Yeah.
but it did. They do. I mean, you ask it questions, but then you start wondering. Okay, is my friend pushing it, making it spell? And they had done it a lot. And one night, their mom and dad was talking to my family, and they told us how haunted their house had become. That their kitchen, cabinets would open and dishes would fall out. And they ended up getting rid of it too, and that family actually did end up finding God.
Yeah, yeah, and well, after everything closed up, and at the end when we closed it up and we said goodbye, and it said goodbye, and we blew out the candles, and we looked around, and there were no more flies flying around the camper. And I had looked at both of my friends, and I was like, have you guys been baptized? And they looked at me and were like, no. Have you? And I said, yeah. And I had already left for boot camp, but they had sent me a letter about a month later. They both came back and they said, we were baptized in church
Awesome.
this week.
That's great.
That's amazing.
So you said that it was moving by itself on the board. I don't even know what that thing's called. The triangle, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. At first it started off, it was moving very slowly around the board. But it picked up. It started to pick up pretty fast, where we were asking questions, and it was spelling very quickly, and it was moving around quicker and quicker, and we were kind of following it around, like, to the point where it started answering questions without us even asking it. It could almost, the only other thing I could think of is that it was reading our minds. And so when I said, it's answering the questions that I had just thought in my head, and it went to yes. The thing actually would slip out from underneath our fingers at times. Like, we would be thinking it's going to go in one direction, and all of a sudden it would shoot out. And it was clear that, we were having a hard time keeping our fingers on it. I think we only ended up having one finger on from each hand at any point, trying to keep our connection with it. And it was definitely moving.
Right. Did after that experience, and I'll let them ask questions too. I'm sure they have some too. I was just wondering, whenever y'all done it, did you have any residual haunting after that happened?
I can't say that I did, but I had experiences, strange odds and ends, a lot growing up before this, and that was the one and only time. I mean, I think I actually took the plastic wrap off right before, either at that time or right before they got there. I hadn't even opened it until they actually came over, and I had that sitting in my closet for 2 years. But I had weird things going on prior to that, different strange things going on. So to say that any residual things that would have occurred after that, I couldn't attribute directly to that experience. But I don't know. I don't think they did. Not that they had said to me, not that I recall them ever saying anything about it afterwards.
Right.
I always kind of chalked it up in my mind, like, people say, well, why would God allow that to happen? Well, God works in mysterious ways. Maybe it was his way of allowing us to, make mistakes and figure things out. And it ended up bringing my two friends into his family. So maybe that was the purpose.
And a lot of people say this, and I'm living proof of it, that God will use the devil to save people, because I wasn't saved until I had an encounter with the demon that I'd seen. And I always joke, and I've joked forever, and I say, the devil literally scared the hell out of me, because when he done that, I went and got saved. Because if there is one side, there has to be the other. It's just how it works. And thank God he scared me that night, because he ran me right to Jesus, and Jesus has been my Lord and Savior since then. I'm not a perfect person by no means, and nobody is. God said there's only one good, and that is him. But we have Jesus because we fall short of the grace, and thank God he loved us that much. Do you have kids? Did they experience any of the residual?
My kids.
Uh-huh.
Again, I've had strange things happen to me throughout my entire life. So, I mean, even like the house that we live in now, when I moved in, the older gentleman that had passed away, he didn't pass away in the house. He passed away in the hospital. But he was still here for a few years after we moved in. His wife ended up going into like hospice care, and we ended up buying the house from his children.
Uh-huh.
But he actually was here for quite some time, and we had to repeatedly tell him that he could leave and he needed to go. I think that after his wife actually passed away is when he actually left.
Right. So did anything ever try to like harm you physically, touch you physically?
I have had things do that, not harm me, but physically touch me. But again, it was before the Ouija board. Something that had happened when I was about 10 or 11. That was again before the Ouija board in my house growing up, that I had an issue with something touching me.
Would you like to share that?
Sure.
I like these stories. I mean, they scare me. I'm not big into supernatural, but it's interesting to me, because I don't know a lot about their capabilities. I know what God says, but when you hear people that's actually experience these things, it's interesting to me. I don't know.
Well,
is it you?
Kaylee's
scared.
I always say, and I kind of feel silly telling I feel like these are just little stories and they're not anything huge and significant, but I sometimes hear other people's stories and go, well, that makes sense. That explains why, that makes sense on why something else might have happened and why that could have possibly happened to me. And, I'm here, I'm listening to everybody's stories too, to try to put all the pieces together. So, but yeah, I sometimes think that I could go on for hours and hours telling all of these different things that had happened. But I will tell you what had happened to me when I was actually touched. So I was probably, 10. I said 10 or 11. That was actually that was one of my first things that I had seen in my room. So at this point, I was a little older because I was doing laundry. I was probably about 14. It was a school night, and my parents were upstairs, or we had a one-story ranch-style house. So my parents were on the first story. They were watching TV, sitting on the couch, watching whatever, America's Funniest Home Videos or something like that. I don't know. My brother was already in bed, and I was supposed to be in bed, but I realized that I had clothes in the wash that I never pulled out. And my mom was like, you better go get your stuff, because I'm not taking care of it. Go take care of it. So I was already set for bed. I had my nightgown on, and like, okay, I'll rush downstairs and I'll go grab the laundry. And I never liked, there was a section in my basement I never liked in the first place. It always just absolutely creeped me out.
I bet, yeah.
Well, and what was kind of ironic about it was the section in the basement that I absolutely hated was the same section where my room was directly located above, which is where I had numerous experiences.
Right.
But I had gone downstairs, and on this particular day, I wasn't thinking anything about it. I'm like, I gotta get my stuff, I gotta get my clothes out, I gotta get everything ready for school for tomorrow. And so I go downstairs and go into the one side of the laundry room. So when you would go down the stairs to the basement and take a right, there was a sliding panel door that you would go through, and it would lead you into our living room area or laundry room area. But if you were to not take an immediate right and just keep kind of going right and then go straight, it would lead you into what we always called the train room. It was a separate room my dad had built off, had kind of his work area, but then my brother and my dad were working on, they had this big miniature train set with all the lights and stuff that they would work on and have set up in there. And I hated that corner of that room because one of the things was the only way to turn on that light was to go into this room still in pitch blackness and fiddle around and try and find that little string hanging from the light bulb on top and pull it. And I could never find it ever. And it always seemed like I was always in there and there was something watching me, like it knew I had a problem trying to find that light, and I just did not like going in there. So I avoided that corner at all costs. So I go into the laundry room, so I make that immediate right, go in, and I grab a basket, and I gotta pull the stuff out of the dryer. So I'm bent over, and I'm grabbing the clothes out of the dryer, and before I finish, I can feel the back of my nightgown actually raise up against the right side of my thigh and lift up and pull up over my hip. And it was a cold feeling. I could feel it actually brush against the skin. The cold feeling of my nightgown lifting up. I didn't feel it on the left side. I felt it on the right side. And my immediate reaction was, who the heck is behind me? And I spun around. My left hand swung around because I was going to belt whoever it was that was touching me. And when I swung around, my hand just hit solid air. There was nothing there. It just went right through. And I stood there for a second, and I put my hand on my leg, like what do I feel? Right. And I could feel my hand. I could feel the heat from my hand, and my leg was chilled. And I kind of looked around to see if maybe did my nightgown get caught on something? Like, I'm trying to think logically, like, okay, I bent over. Did I get caught with a hanger or something? And there's nothing there. There was nothing.
Wow.
And I, without taking my eyes off the area, I just bent, grabbed the basket, and I went right back upstairs with my back against the wall, sliding all the way up the stairs, opened the door, quick swung around, shut the door, and I come around the corner, and I look at my parents who were both sitting on the couch, and I'm like, did Jim go downstairs? My brother? And they're like, no, he's in bed. Okay. Cats up here, dogs up here. Yeah. Dog's been sitting here the whole time. Dog's laying on the couch. Dog hasn't moved. Nobody went downstairs. What is wrong? I'm like, something touched me. Yeah, and my mom's like, what? And my dad's like, what do you mean touched you? And I said, something like lifted my pajamas up and touched me. And my dad kind of joked around like, oh, well, we got a little perverted ghost down there. Ha, 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 go to bed. I'm like, it's not funny. Something touched me. And they're like, just go to bed, or you're tired, it's late, just go. And whatever, grabbed my basket of clothes and I went into my room and crawled into bed. And I never even pulled the rest of the clothes in the basket like I should have, so I had wrinkly clothes the next day. But at that point, I was just like, nope.
I kind of had something like that happen to me whenever I was younger. I was touched by a hand while I was in the shower.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No.
It's just like that creepy feeling that you get. It's strange.
I almost, I don't want to say I could handle the feeling of being watched better than I can actually being touched.
Yeah.
You know, maybe the personal bubble.
Yeah, right.
If you're watching, you're away and you're not in my space. But yeah, I think the touching part.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with you on that. I'd rather have the feeling of being watched than to be touched.
There's a motel that's in a town close to us, and there's a story behind it. It's a long story, but kind of to sum it up, the owner of it was married to like a really young lady, and he caused her to get pregnant. He locked her in one of the rooms up on like the top story, and he would never let her out. He kept her in there. He would get her food and everything she needed, but he made her stay in there and take care of the baby. They say that she jumped with the baby from the window and killed herself. And you can now stay in that motel, and supposedly if you stay there, they say the water in the bathroom will come on, and if you take a shower, sometimes you'll feel her touch you, or you'll see her through the shower curtain.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big nope.
Yeah, nope. Okay. That did me in whenever I had that happen to me. I don't ever want to experience something like that again. I wouldn't experience it ever.
Yeah. No.
So did you hear any voices after that, Jessica? Like any talking or?
Putting me on the spot now.
I'm curious. We're like the Inquirer around here. Curious minds want to know.
Yes, I've always, I don't want to say I've always heard voices, but I have heard voices talking to me. My grandmother told me when I was young that I had a guardian angel who followed me and was always watching over me. And if I ever hear voices, it's likely it's my guardian angel trying to tell me a message. So, being young and my grandmother telling me this, okay. Well, I would hear voices every once in a while. In the house, I can't really say I heard a whole lot of voices while being in the house. There was a time when my daughter and I were at an apartment. We were living in an apartment, and her father was working all the time. He was a chef. And in this apartment, I would always be, we had our dog, we had a blue heeler named Toby. He was my baby. I actually bought him for her father for his birthday, but he was more of my dog than his. He would come home and he'd be like, is the dog on the bed? Nope. Nope. Why is the spot warm? Oh, I just shifted sides. And Toby knew. He would hear him coming home and pulling in the drive, and he would slink his little furry butt off the bed, and we're like, nope, I wasn't up there, Dad. Nope. But he would, he was really my big fur baby, and he was always protecting my daughter and following her around the house and stuff. And but mainly what I'm getting at is he worked late. He worked very late working as a chef. There would be times he would come home at like 1:30 in the morning because he's cleaning up, or at least that's what I was always told. Wow. And I'm laying in bed one night and I could not sleep. My daughter was probably about maybe just under a year old at this point. Toby's laying next to me, and I'm laying in bed, and I clear as day, I hear, "He is being unfaithful." And I hear another voice go, "Yes, unfaithful." And I'm like, "Who?" And I say his name, and they're like, "Yes, unfaithful." And it was a male and a female voice. The male voice was very loud, and the female voice was kind of softer. And I kind of chalked it up to, okay, I just need some sleep and don't overreact. And it was about a month later, I discovered he had been having an affair with the hostess at his restaurant for some time. And the reason why I caught him is because he had left me with his other 2 kids at the time, and his son had become sick, and I couldn't get a hold of him, so I drove up to his job. I had a neighbor in the apartment actually watch the kids so I could go up and find him, and I found his vehicle with his work clothes on the front seat of the car. And when I went in to go talk to the other manager, he said, no, he's been gone for almost 5 hours. He went to a party with the rest of the group. And discovered, yeah, he had been cheating on me. So
That's sad.
that's one of the instances of voices that I had heard that would talk to me and tell me things.
Wow.
So
That's terrible.
That is like, did you ever experience any of the, like, where people say like doors shutting or cabinet doors opening or things falling or anything like that?
The 3 knocks.
Yeah, the 3 knocks.
the 3 knocks.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I've actually ever heard the 3 knocks. I've heard in the apartment building that we were living in, that one was highly haunted. Well, highly haunted compared to my experiences. It was probably the most haunted, even compared to our house now before he went away. But the apartment building would have, I would hear footsteps walking around the apartment. Things would be moved, would fall off tables and knock over all the time. I never saw anything like shoot across the room or anything like that. But yeah, I'd come in and there'd be cabinet doors open. And I mean, not to the point where it was like I would walk into the kitchen and go, okay, something happened.
Mm-hmm.
It would be almost kind of like, oh, maybe I just didn't shut the cabinet all the way, or oh, maybe I didn't shut the drawer all the way. But one of the things that I was very particular about was making sure that that door was locked all the time. We had a front door and a back door. And every time I would let the dog outside to go to the bathroom, I'd take him out, I'd come back in, and I would lock the door. It was just a continuous habit that I never broke. Never an issue with that. So when I would be late at night, laying in bed with the dog that wasn't sleeping on the bed next to me, curled up at my feet at all, I would hear the door open and shut. And he would crawl to the edge of the bed and his hackles would come up and he would start to growl, and I would hear footsteps, and then the footsteps would turn around and walk back out the door, and I would hear the door open and close. And it wasn't like, I mean, I wouldn't even hear a key. It's not like I could even hear a key. Like when her father would come home, I would hear that key in the door to unlock it. But that door would open and close. There would be no key in the door to open and close it. It would just, I would hear an open, a close, and I would hear solid footsteps walking across the wooden floor.
Wow.
Doors in the apartment would, you would hear the sounds of opening and closing, but I never actually heard or saw the doors actually close or open. It was just the sounds that I would hear or the footsteps that I would hear. At one point, the neighbors above us had moved out. So for about 2 months, there was nobody up there. And every once in a while I would hear footsteps, and I would brush it off like, oh, well, maybe the landlord is here and he's looking around trying to get stuff cleared up and taken care of and whatnot. But every once in a while I would kind of just be like, well, that's weird. There's no new cars in the driveway. And again, I would try and brush it off. There was one instance I was actually down in the basement area of this apartment complex. We were digging around trying to find some stuff in we had each one had a gated like storage area. And me and her father were down there trying to pull stuff out, and turned around and he saw it. He's like, there's a dog. And I turned to look, and out of the corner of my eye, it's almost like a blur. So I didn't actually see it, but I kind of looked at him and he goes, there was a white dog standing there. Like, I didn't see it. He goes, there was a white dog standing in here. Does anybody have a white dog? And I'm like, well, no, the neighbor has a black lab. And then we have Toby, but Toby's not down here. I could hear him, pitter-pattering upstairs right now. He's like, I know what I saw. And he never believed in any of that stuff. I would tell him I would hear the doors opening and closing when he wasn't there, and he just thought I was like sleeping and imagining things. But the creepiest one was one time at this apartment we had been watching, and I don't like even watching scary movies, and I think this was probably the last scary movie I actually ever watched. We were laying in bed one night watching The Ring, and that movie freaked me out to begin with, but we finished watching the movie and we shut everything off and put the remote up on the counter, and he's like, well, I'm going to go finish the dishes. I said, okay, fine, I'm going to finish putting away this laundry. So he walks out into the kitchen to go finish putting the dishes away. And I took the laundry basket and I dumped all the clothes on the bed so I could start folding and hanging them up. And the TV turned on. And it was just the static on the TV. And I kind of looked around like, oh, well, maybe when I dumped the clothes out, I hit the remote, and I'm looking and I'm moving stuff around. And I'm like, wait, no, I put the remote up on the counter, and I looked up and there's the remote sitting right there. Wow. Right next to the TV, right where I placed it before I grabbed the basket. And I walked over and I shut the TV off. And he's like, is everything okay? And I'm like, why would you say that? And he's like, well, I heard you like scream or something. And I said, I didn't scream. And he walks around the corner and he goes, you didn't say anything or yell anything? I thought I heard you yell something. And I said, no, the TV turned on. And he goes, well, did you hit the remote? I said, no, the remote's there. I'm here. No. And he's like, oh, well. And he just kind of shrugged it off. And I said, I'm never watching another scary movie again. I'm done.
Sarah's had some things happen during scary movies also.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what the name of the movie is now that he put me right on the
Grudge?
spot. No, it was the one where they play the hide and clap game.
The what?
Where they play like the hide and clap game, you know, where they're hiding throughout the house. The Conjuring.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was watching that, and I had this little, it was like a little desk lamp, you know, and it had the little light bulb in there. And we was getting to the part to where like they were like gonna like rebuke the demon out of the person. And my light in my little lamp that sat beside me just busted out of nowhere. And so of course I jumped up, turned the TV off, and that's what really got me out of all the scary movies and messing around with all the paranormal stuff, because I used to be really bad into that.
She knew a guy that was like terrified of salt. He hated
Yeah.
salt. She worked with him, and like he was so far into witchcraft
Yeah.
that like if you even messed around and like threw salt at him, he went nuts.
Well, I didn't know, and I was setting we all said it. It was like our group. We all went on break together, and we were all sitting around this table. And I opened a salt packet, and some just like fell on the table, and he just like jumps up from this chair and starts freaking out. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. I was like, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "No," and I can't sit back down at this table until all the salt is gone. And nobody understood why. But he really never would tell us. But after I kind of looked into it, I figured out why. But yeah, anytime anybody sat down with a salt packet, he'd get up and just leave until everybody had done what they needed to do with it. He wouldn't have no part of it, wouldn't touch it, wouldn't go close to
Well, he
it.
said that if he got salt on him, that he would lose his powers.
That's crazy.
Well,
Oh, I thought maybe he was like a slug man, like
yeah.
the sugar man from Men in Black.
Well, he
Yeah.
always complained that it burned. It would burn his skin.
Or maybe more of a Balchinian. I'm not sure. But yeah, it was yeah, he caught a lot of hell for that for acting out, but but it was really serious to him, wasn't it? He would freak out.
Yeah, you could see the fear in his eyes.
But he was into some deep stuff. I mean, we found out later that he was
black magic and witchcraft and a whole bunch of other stuff.
he was into some really, really dark stuff.
Yeah.
Had a really bad past. So, we just pray that, he doesn't do that no more.
Yeah.
I've had paranormal things. I don't know if Kaylee has. Kaylee, have you had any paranormal things happen to you?
No, the only thing that would be paranormal that I've ever witnessed would be whenever I lived with my mom and I was like 10, 11 years old, and I have really bad anxiety, so I used to spend the night in my brother's room, and I would lay in his floor and he'd have a light shining on the door, so whenever it was dark you could see like a silhouette. And so whenever I was laying there, I woke up in the middle of the night to get a drink. And I'm getting hot just talking about it. I hate talking about it. And I seen a silhouette of a man standing in the door. And I can see through the hallway, and there was no one standing there. And so back then, I didn't really know how to pray and, any of that stuff. So all I did was put the blanket over my face and go to sleep. And I never witnessed it again. It scared me so much.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't like those kind of encounters.
No, I don't like them anymore.
Since we're looking into more things, we've had a lot of people reach out to us. It's given us access to some places. Like we went on the boots on the ground yesterday. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And we had a lot of fun. Got to eat some McDonald's, Jessica. We broke down and ate fancy, and we went out. They have a meal now, guys. I am not sponsored by McDonald's, just so everybody clarify that. But it's the number 7. You get 2 cheeseburgers, a large fry, and a drink. And the lady didn't even charge us for the drink. She said, "I ain't worried about that $1.87." So we got a pretty good deal.
Well, we might get sponsored.
We're and you know what? I probably won't get sponsored though, because I got a buddy, and he likes them a little bit more than I do because he cut the golden arches into his eyebrows. But I'm working on it. I'm still trying to catch up to him because I want that McDonald's sponsorship.
Burger King.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go Burger King now.
Burger King.
We lost. Did you ever like have things moved around your house?
Yeah. There would be things moved, but again, I always kind of chalked it up to my ADD. Putting things down in one spot and thinking that, oh, maybe I must have moved it and I wasn't paying attention. It would happen a lot.
Right.
It happened a lot more probably in the apartment that we lived in, that it did growing up. but growing up in the house, I mean, if things were moved, I had a little brother. I'd just be like, why are you touching my stuff? No one's
Right.
touching your stuff. Oh my gosh.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Damn.
Was there like any history to the apartment buildings? Like, do you know if anything like happened there?
It's kind of, so the area that I live in
Mm-hmm.
is, I kind of, the area that I live in is in between a quarry, a huge rock quarry, and then a main coal-powered power plant,
Okay.
and then a Great Lake.
Wow.
So I'm kind of on a trifecta
Yep.
of a whole mess right there. In fact, there's actually two quarries because the first quarry ended up filling in with water, and so now it's a swimming quarry. But they are still blasting at the other main quarry. So we're kind of sitting on this whole area. We're kind of sitting on a grounds for residual and energies for strange
Yep.
and mysterious, paranormal, anything to go
Wow.
on.
Yeah, that
But-
explains a lot.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said that explains a lot.
Yeah. And then going back to the house that I grew up in, and I don't know how much time you want me to go on, because like I said, I could go on forever.
Oh,
So
go ahead. Go ahead.
okay, so going back to the creepiness, I gotta tell you the strange thing story, creature, whatever you would want to call it. I don't know. So when I was about 10 or 11, I was already asleep in bed, sleeping. I woke up sometime in the middle of the night. Everybody was already in bed, asleep. And when I woke up, I kind of looked around like, why am I waking up? And kind of got this feeling like something was watching me and staring at me. And I'm looking around my room, and I'm trying to be logical, and I'm looking and I see a shadow, and I'm like, okay, nope, that's my hoodie. I remember putting my jacket on my wall hook, and that's what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing a head and figure or shoulders. That's my hoodie. And then I would it was a kind of a trick my mother used to tell me to do. And, if I ever woke up in the middle of the night scared, think about what it really is or what it could really be before I freak out and start screaming.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm looking around, and okay, there's nothing abnormal, nothing strange. I'm good. And I'm about to lay back down, and I see a shadow. I had a small little desk sitting next to my bed with a little chair that I would sit and color and draw and all sorts of stuff on. And I see this shadow, and I'm like, I don't remember having anything sitting in that chair. And I kind of freeze, and I'm looking, and I see this black figure. It was lanky with spindly arms and long pointed ears. And as I'm sitting here staring at it, it slowly turns its head towards me. And it looks at me, and it has these bright, beady red eyes. And it's just sitting there, barely moving. The only thing that moved was this head that just slowly turned towards me. And as I'm staring at it, starting to panic, it smiles this huge, great big smile from ear to ear. And it's these jaggedy, long, white teeth that come out, and huge grin, and all I see are bright white teeth, and these eyes, and it's just staring at me and smiling like, I know you see me.
Yeah.
And at that point, I closed my eyes and froze, and I'm like, Jesus, Lord Jesus, make it go away.
Mm-hmm.
Please, Lord Jesus, make it go away. Please make it be gone. And when I opened my eyes again, it was no longer there.
Wow.
And I couldn't see if it was like gone. I couldn't see my floor at that point. I'm like backed up against the wall of my bed, on my bed, and backed up against the wall, like, I'm not about to stick my feet out from underneath these covers and run to my mom's room and no, So what do? I scream, and I'm calling for my mother, Mom, Mom, Mom. And I could hear her kind of start to stir, and I'm like, Mom, and I'm like choking through the cries because I'm just so scared.
Right.
And I could finally hear her kind of stir, and she walks in and she flips the light on, and she's like, what is going on? And I'm like, I saw something at the table at the desk. And she's like, there's nothing there. There's nothing on the floor. There's nothing under your bed. You're fine. There's nothing there.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, are you sure there's nothing? She's looking behind the door. Nothing. There's nothing here. You're fine. It's okay. You can go back to sleep. And I kind of lay back down, and she shuts the light off, and she goes back to her room, and I didn't hear anything else after that. And I had just recently asked her about that. She's like, I don't really remember that. I kind of remember it, but I really don't remember that. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, do you remember the time about the cat? And she's like, that I remember. And so a few years later, I was about maybe 12, laying in bed. And the bed that I had at this time, it was a water bed. So the whole bottom of the bed was actually like a solid bed. You couldn't like stick anything in it. There weren't any drawers or anything like that. The only space that there was the back of the headboard, where it had it was old water bed. They had the little dial so you could keep the heat on the bed so it wasn't ice cold. But other than that, that was the only space under the bed, was right behind the headboard. And I was a messy kid. Yeah, I'm going to admit it. I never kept my room super clean. So one side of the headboard was kind of blocked off. I had some stuff there. But my cat that I had used to hide underneath the bed, particularly to get away from my brother, because he was always tormenting her, trying to throw her in the bathroom sink and get her wet, because she was kind of like a Mancoon cat. She was really fluffy and furry, and he just thought it was hilarious to sock her down and soak her all up and make her look like a drowned rat.
Right.
So that was usually the only time she would hide, would be from him. But she was my baby. She always laid with me and always slept with me. Was always underneath my feet or behind my knees, or I would like do homework and she would curl up in my lap, and when I would do homework in my room, and but she was always next to me. And this particular night, I remember waking up and I could hear rustling on the side of my bed on the right-hand side. And she loved playing in paper bags, loved it. So I could hear her actually rolling. She had one of those little rainbow toy balls. She was rolling into the bag, and it would roll out, and she would pounce on the bag, and I could hear it. And I was like, okay, it's just her. And I trying to go back to sleep, and she's getting really rambunctious, really loud. I'm like, the heck? I'm like, oh. So I kind of like hissed, like, Tigger, stop it. And I hear it stop. I hear her stop. Like, oh. I'm like, go to bed, go to sleep. And I can hear papers and everything kind of fall and scatter like underneath her feet, like as she's running, like, oh crap. And she runs around to the end of the bed and comes around the left side, and then goes and like slides underneath the back head of the headboard. And I mean, hard enough that I could actually hear it go clink as she went and ran underneath the headboard. And I'm like, oh, dang cat. So I go to grab my comforter and kind of readjust myself to go, curl up and go back to sleep. And the comforter doesn't really move. And I went to move my feet, and I'm like, no. And my whole body went ice cold. My stomach flipped, and I ice cold. I raised my head, and I'm looking up just so slightly. At this point, I'm not trying to make any noise. And as I raise my head and I look down, my cat is sound asleep on my feet. And no, I couldn't feel her because she was probably maybe 10 pounds sopping wet. I mean, she was a very lightweight cat. And when she would sleep, I was so used to it, I would never even feel her half the time. And here she is, unconscious, on top of my feet, passed out asleep. And when you say scared stiff, I was so scared. It took everything I had to slowly lay my head back down and not move the rest of the night. I don't think I slept the rest of the night. By the time my mom got up the next morning and I had to tell her what had happened, she was like, "You sure it wasn't the cat?" I'm like, "Mom, no. There was something in my room that ran underneath the headboard of my bed that was making a ruckus. I couldn't tell you if it was like a bipedal thing or it had 4 feet or 4 paws or feet or whatever, like a cat. Because at the time when I heard it, I thought it was my cat. I didn't think anything of it other than it's my cat. It's Tigger. She's goofing around. It's, cats play at midnight and 2 a.m. And I couldn't even tell you what time it was at that point because I didn't even have a clock. I had one of those like wind up alarm clocks. And yeah, I wasn't even moving to look and see what time it was.
Almost scare you to death whenever they go off.
Yeah.
That thing, I remember my grandma had one. It'd wake me up in her room. Remember that?
Yeah.
I'd fly out of my bed. It's one of them clocks that you hope you beat before it goes off. That's the first thing you do is turn it off.
The ones that you never want to use.
Yeah. Or you're not reaching for it and then it goes off.
Yeah.
Oh
Then
my
you
God.
jump out of your skin.
Jessica, we appreciate you coming on tonight, and we've kept you over an hour. And I'm sure I got a pretty good feeling we're probably going to hear from you in the future.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you coming on and sharing everything with us. And to everybody, give Jessica a hand. She done a really good job tonight. She came on. She had some really good encounters. I'm sure she probably has some more, and I would love to have her back on if she does.
Yeah.
And we will.
Yeah, I would love to come back on.
We would love to have you. Thank you very much, Jessica, for coming on tonight. And I will talk to you later. Does that sound okay?
That sounds great. Thank you, guys.
Hey, thank you very much for being one of our abnormal members.
It was nice talking to
Yeah,
you
it was
and
nice
meeting
having
you.
What's that?
It was nice talking to you and meeting you.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 All right, everybody. That was Jessica. She's a very nice person.
Yeah.
So glad to have her on tonight. She has some more stuff she's going to share with us in the future, stories and other maybe.
Yeah, she's very sweet.
We're going to talk just a little bit about our investigation yesterday where we went boots on the ground at an old cemetery. People said they were hearing noises there at night. We did go there. People said they heard laughs and things. We did hear laughs. We did hear noises, but we was unable to tell where they were coming from. Now, where we was at, there's a lot of hills and valleys, and you could tell that the echoing around that area had a lot of echoes.
Yeah.
So I cannot say that those came from that area. If you hear the video, you all can make, your own assumptions and just let us know in the chat what you think. I'd love to read them. We took some IR video and IR still camera pictures. The still pictures I put in for the Patreon. Everybody's looking at those right now. They're enjoying those. They said they love them. But that's where all that's at. And it was a very unique place. I really enjoyed it because of the history and everything. And I love history. And, it's we did not go there to contact anybody or to do anything like that. We went there to see what happened naturally and if what people were hearing was a natural event that was happening. I'm going to have to say that as of right now, we may go back, but I'm going to say that it was a inconclusive investigation, that we don't know one way or the other. What would you say?
I thought it was interesting. I mean, you could hear like a bunch of different sounds, but like you said, it was kind of like in a valley and we were surrounded by hills, so there was a lot of sounds.
It was just
I'm
hard
interested. Yeah.
To, it was just hard to pinpoint.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what you guys think about it.
Yeah, we took a lot of pictures that are in the Patreon. For members of the channel, just so you know, we are doing a members-only video for you guys that will be released. That is for our members. We're going to address some things in that will go just to our members, and I think that's how we're going to start addressing a lot of things. I don't have an IMF detector yet, Herbert, but we are ordering some stuff that's coming in because of all the support we've gained lately. It's been outrageous. So we do have stuff that is being shipped right now, and I'm excited to use a lot of it. I'm putting the spirit box on Kaylee, and we're going to put her out there and let her walk around.
No, you're not.
Not really. We're not really going to do that. Michelle, I am an Oklahomer, and we do most of our investigations here. Another thing we done the other night also is we went to a place called Gravity Hill. Now, the legend behind it or folklore, there was a bus wreck there, and if you park at the bottom of the hill, the children will push your vehicle to the top if you put it in neutral. That really does happen. Is it an optical illusion, or is it something that happens supernaturally? You all have to let me know in the comments what you think. Y'all want us to go back in the daylight. We are planning on doing that so y'all can see it happen in the daylight. And one gentleman even suggested he wanted us to take a level with us and lay the level on the road to see if it's an optical illusion or if it's actually an incline or a decline.
Oh, that'd be
So,
cool.
yeah, we'll do that on the video also. Tulsa, Tulsa's not far from us. I can't give you our exact area,
No,
guys. I'm, just for safety reasons. I have children. Just for everybody right now, especially with the threats we're getting and people stealing a lot of our moderators' accounts and stuff. We have a new member right now, guys. Primetime Stephen Joyce.
Oh,
Hey,
welcome.
Thank you for joining. We're glad to have you with us. Sorry about that. We got our protector laying back there behind us. The other one's in the house.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori, for the super sticker. Folks, let's just go ahead and get to it. We're going to do a giveaway tonight. And the giveaway is going to be this luxurious.
Don't put numbers yet.
No numbers yet. No numbers.
Yeah.
We got this cup we're going to be giving away tonight. Now, we had to pry this out of Jaws' hands because Jaws does not want to get rid of no pumpkins, okay? So, we're going to be giving that away. And then we got a bag of pumpkins.
The snacks, too.
Yeah, they go with it. So, you're going to get snacks, a coffee cup. It is a collector's, and we will all sign it, autograph it with our mom, and this will be sent out to the winner tonight. So let's go ahead, and I guess we can go ahead and get to that. Now, the number is going to be, let me get this off real quick. Thank you again, Lisa, very much. The number is going to be between 1 and 500. Everybody gets one guess in one round. If nobody guesses it, then we're going to move the numbers down to 100, and then we're going to go until we give it away. But it will be given away. Now, number one, if you're a winner, please do not put any personal information in the chat. Email that to us so that we can send it to you, and not everybody will have your personal information. All right, moderators, you know the number. So pick your number, everybody, and let it roll through, and we'll see who wins this cup. And we can all remember the fun time we had in the concrete pumpkin patch.
What are we going?
Just start watching for numbers, guys. You know what you're looking for, right?
Nope.
We've wrote the number down right here, guys. It's on the paper, so we'll show it so we can prove it.
Oh, already seen it.
Did you really?
Yep, I did. Right there.
Yep.
Yep. Nancy won that
Wow.
fast.
That was fast.
Let me show everybody so y'all can see. There's the number we had picked. 316 for John 316. Congratulations, Nancy.
Congrats.
Send the your address and contact information to the email abnormalinvestigation77@gmail.com. It's also rolling at the bottom. We will get this mailed out to you.
Congratulations.
That was
And,
super fast.
I guess we're going to go ahead and thank everybody that showed up tonight. We want to welcome all new people that joined. Welcome to the family. Thank you for supporting us.
Yeah,
That
thank you all so much.
that is a big thing. Guys, all we can do is just keep doing videos and you all keep supporting us. Tonight was a huge night. We have big numbers, a lot of likes, a lot of support. We've had other channels now reach out to us that are supporting us. Thank you to those channels. I won't name your names because I don't want you under attack. But thank you for what you're sending us behind the scenes and your dedication, and just thank you very much.
You guys are awesome.
Wait, what's this? Wait, get Giles out of here. He's mad because we got rid of the pumpkins, guys. We're gonna have to go offline right now. Sorry, guys. Giles is upset.